All right, we all know that Al Gore doesn't like taking questions very much, and that was certainly on display last month when journalist Phelim McAleer confronted him at a conference for environmental journalists. Gore reacted, well, by cutting off his mic. Take a look.
The British High Court in London found that Inconvenient Truth had 9 significant errors in it. Given this film has been shown in schools to children, do you accept those 9 significant errors? I know you say that it's funded by deniers, that court case, but a judge in the British High Court, after a lengthy hearing, found there were 9 significant errors. This has been shown to children. Do you accept those findings, and have you done anything to correct those errors?
Well, I'm not going to go through all of those. The ruling was in favor of the movie, by the way, and the ruling was in favor of showing the movie in schools. And that's really the bottom line on that. There's been such a long discussion of each one of those specific things. One of them, for example, was that polar bears, if I remember correctly, it's been a long time ago, that polar bears really aren't endangered. Well, the polar bears didn't get that word. So...
Well, the number of polar bears have increased, actually, and are increasing.
You don't think they're endangered, do you?
The number of polar bears have increased.
Do you think they're endangered?
The number of polar bears have increased. I mean, if the number of polar bears increase, surely they're not endangered.
But the word polar bear,
a judge did have a lengthy hearing.
We have to move on.
No, but no. I mean, Vice President Gore hasn't. Vice President.
We're not doing a debate here.
No, this question. He hasn't answered the question. Vice
We
President
have
Gore
10
hasn't
minutes
answered.
left for these people.
Yes, but I would appreciate his answer to the court.
Yeah. Yep.
Pretty classy, right? Well, Mr. McAleer and his colleague Anne McElhinney have produced a new movie that shows why Al Gore's wrong about global warming and outlines just how damaging global warming hysteria really is. The movie is not evil, just wrong, and those filmmakers, Phelim McAleer and Anne McElhinney, now join us. Guys, good to see you. Welcome back to the program. Pretty gutsy. Now, it was the other journalist that shut off the mic, not Al Gore? We don't know who shut it off.
Well, no, it was the journalists. And it's
so-called journalists.
Yes, it's environmental journalists. I think they're environmentalists rather than journalists. They see it's their duty to protect the multi-millionaire politician / businessman rather than support the journalist asking difficult questions.
Well, he's claiming that this court decision actually, favored his point of view. That is absolutely false.
That is false.
Explain.
Well, the court case, it was a lengthy hearing, maybe a month of hearings. There was 9 aspects of an inconvenient truth they looked at, and they found 9 significant errors or exaggerations. I wouldn't like my documentary, our documentary, to have 9 significant errors, and if it did, I certainly wouldn't be shown to school children across America, and that's the important thing.
But there was also more to that decision, if I recall. They didn't say that it should be shown in schools, as he was saying. There was an addendum to that, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, it's like a packet of cigarettes now in the UK.
With a warning.
Yeah, a government health
warning. This is a political film, that this is not necessarily factual.
Yeah.
It's not science.
Exactly. Exactly, and he's doing the very same thing now with his new book. Exactly the same thing. One scientist that he interviewed suggested that if we rearrange the way we organise soil use, that basically you could actually soak up all the CO2 emissions in the world. And guess what his assistant did? His assistant got in touch with that scientist and said, could you dial back a bit? Can you dial back? And by the way, I'm getting that from Newsweek, who are huge fans, obviously, of Al Gore's. So he's at that again. So he asked a scientist to dial back his science. This is who Al Gore is. Al Gore, so much for the inconvenient truth, he just doesn't like the truth.
Well, I think he likes this position that he now has, and I think in that sense he is a propagandist. Now, we have on this film, we've had you guys on before on Hannity's America, and we have literally put on the screen meteorologists, climatologists, scientists, and there are hundreds and hundreds of them that disagree. Why don't they get the same amount of attention as, say, Al Gore?
Well, it's really funny. I mean, one of the things that they keep saying in this argument is that there's a consensus, everyone agrees. That's not how science works. It doesn't matter if 99,000 people all agree about something and one person is right. Politics works like that. Politics works with democracy. A certain number of people vote for something and then it becomes true. It becomes the person who they elect. But with science, the one person who tells the truth. So it's very interesting, and of course it's because the IPCC, if you think about the IPCC, it's not a scientific body, it's a governmental body, it's the intergovernmental panel, and so they work by consensus. But that's not how science works.
Isn't this, it's not how science works, but isn't this interesting? You know, what is this, the 9th coldest year on record since we've been recording it, the last time I checked? Liberals will say, well, if it's cold, it's global warming. If it's snowing, it's global warming. If it's hot, it's global warming. If there's a volcano or an earthquake, it's global warming. See, there's nothing that doesn't prove that it's global warming.
It's a complete win-win. It's called the weather where I come from, you know. And, you know, it's a big planet, you know, and there's always extreme weather, so it's great. It's a win-win situation.
Is global warming a farce? Is the whole thing a hoax?
I'll tell you the best way for any of your viewers who might be slightly concerned about this. I think the one thing that really should comfort them is watch and observe the behaviour of the people who are telling us the world's about to end. They spend all their time in aeroplanes. Apparently that's the worst thing you could do. So the IPCC people, you know, nowadays, I mean, and I know Al Gore himself, he's on the board of Apple, and they're great for this whole video conferencing, all this new technology that we have. Why is it that they don't video conference? They're travelling all the time. I know last week they were in Barcelona. Next week they're going to be in Copenhagen.
We caught him on a Gulfstream 2.
Oh, yeah.
One of the least fuel efficient.
Of course, and he's on it all the time. I mean, this guy flies all the time. So I think for anyone who's slightly worried about it, look at these guys. Look at Al Gore himself. Until he was pointed out, until the Tennessee Policy Institute pointed out the fact that his own electricity bill was 4 times what an ordinary American.
20 times.
There you go. Even 20 times more.
No, he uses more electricity in a month than most Americans use in a year.
But that had to happen. When that was pointed out, he suddenly installed the solar panels. How sincere is this guy?
He's phony. Right.
That's what we think.
That was a brave question. Great job. Great work. And I'm sure you'll be excoriated and you know, beaten up for great work.
Well, the truth is good fun.
All right, guys. Thank you for being with us. Appreciate it.